The ships came on a Tuesday morning. They filled the sky like a second night, blocking out the sun across every continent at once. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it was terrifying. The Dominion had ruled the stars for 11,000 years. They had conquered over 200 species across the galactic arm. Earth was just another world on their map, another resource to collect, another population to control. Their warships were massive beyond imagination. Each one was larger than a city, and they moved through space like they owned it. Because they did. Humanity fought back. Of course they did. Every nation launched their weapons. Every army mobilized. Every person who could hold a gun tried to defend their home. The resistance lasted exactly 19 days. It was not a war, it was a lesson. The weapons did not simply destroy. They unmade things. Buildings did not explode. They simply stopped existing. Tanks did not burn. They faded like dreams upon waking. Human technology was so far behind that the aliens barely noticed the attacks. A nuclear missile meant nothing to shields that bent reality itself. Commander was assigned to oversee Earth's integration into the Dominion. She was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and eyes that saw more than they should. She had done this job on 30 other worlds. Humans were her 31st species to process. She found them strange. Most conquered species fell into silence and despair. Humans did not. They asked questions constantly. They touched things they were told not to touch. They watched everything with hungry eyes. They adapted to their new reality faster than any species she had seen before. They are like children, she reported to her superiors, curious and foolish. They will cause small problems but nothing serious. Category 7 intelligence. Good for labor, no threat. The humans were put to work. They mined resources from their own planet. They built structures for their new masters. They served in houses and flew in cargo ships as low-level crew. They were not cruel to them. Cruelty required caring. The aliens simply did not think about humans much at all. They were tools, nothing more. But made one mistake in her report. She said humans were no threat. She believed this completely. Every test showed that humans could not sense the resonance field. This was the source of all power. It was the energy that flowed beneath reality itself. Their ships used it. Their weapons drew from it. Their communication systems rode its waves across the galaxy in an instant. Only special species could touch the field. They were one of them. They had built their entire civilization on this gift. Other species needed machines implanted in their brains. They needed decades of training. Even then, most failed. The field was not meant for everyone. Humans showed zero ability to sense it. Their brains did not register it at all. The machines said so. The tests confirmed it, so stopped worrying about them. She should have worried. Deep beneath the mountains of Switzerland, a secret facility had survived the invasion. It was built to study physics at the smallest level. Dr. Vance had worked there for 20 years. She was 53 years old when the aliens came. She was one of the few scientists who escaped the initial conquest. In the final hours before Earth surrendered and her team detected something impossible, their machines picked up a strange signal. It was not radio. It was not light. It was something else entirely. A vibration in the fabric of space itself. A hum that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. They did not know what it was, but was smart enough to guess. She had seen how the alien ships moved. She had watched their weapons work. Nothing in human physics could explain those things, but this signal could. They are using something we cannot see, she told her team. Some kind of energy field, and we just found it. The facility went dark. Power was cut to avoid detection. The team worked in secret using hidden generators and stolen equipment. They could not do much, but they could listen. They could learn, and they could wait. Was a patient woman. She knew that knowledge was the most dangerous weapon of all. They had conquered Earth with technology humans could not understand, but understanding could be learned. Secrets could be discovered. Power could be taken. She wrote everything down in coded notebooks. She trained younger scientists in secret. She built a network of hidden researchers across the occupied planet. They called themselves the listeners. They never noticed. Why would they? Humans were just workers, just tools, just another conquered species in a long list of conquered species. They could not touch the resonance field. The machines said so. But machines could be wrong. Died 14 years after the invasion. She never saw her work bear fruit, but before she died, she passed her notebooks to a young woman named, and she spoke words that would never forget. They think we are blind to their power, whispered. They are wrong. We just see it differently. Keep listening. Keep learning. One day humans will not just see the field, they will own it. Took the notebooks. She continued the work. And across the occupied Earth, in hidden places and quiet moments, humanity kept watching their conquerors with hungry eyes. They had made a terrible mistake. They had taught humans that greater power existed, and humans had never been good at accepting limits. The first 50 years of occupation were quiet. The next 50 years would shake the galaxy to its core. 50 years passed under alien rule. Children were born who never knew freedom. They grew up thinking that serving was simply how life worked. They learned to keep their heads down and their mouths shut. They learned that asking too many questions brought punishment. But they also learned to watch and listen and remember. Was 26 years old when he first felt the hum. He worked as an engineer on a mining colony orbiting a distant star called 442b. It was boring work. He fixed machines that dug metals from asteroids. He maintained systems that kept the air clean and the lights on. He was nobody important. The overseers barely looked at him. He was just another human worker, just another pair of hands to do jobs that aliens found beneath them, had accepted this life. He had no choice. Then one night everything changed. He was alone in a maintenance tunnel fixing a broken pipe. The colony was quiet. Most workers were sleeping, was tired, and his mind was wandering. And suddenly he heard it. It was not a sound exactly. It was more like a feeling, a vibration that seemed to come from inside his own skull, a hum that was somehow warm and cold at the same time. It felt like music played on instruments that did not exist. Dropped his tools. His heart was pounding. He looked around but saw nothing unusual. The hum continued. It seemed to be coming from everywhere, from the walls, from the air, from the space between atoms. He reached out his hand toward the wall, and he felt something push back. It was like touching water that was not wet, like running his fingers through light that had weight. For one moment, felt connected to something vast and beautiful and terrifying. Then the feeling was gone. He told no one. He thought he was going crazy. But the next night he felt it again, and the night after that. Each time the feeling was stronger. Each time he could hold on to it a little longer. Was not the only one. Across occupied space, on dozens of worlds, other humans were experiencing the same thing. A young woman on Mars felt it while working in a greenhouse. A teenage boy on a transport ship felt it during a long journey between stars. An old man on Earth felt it while sitting in his garden at sunset. They did not know each other. They had no way to communicate, but they all felt the same hum, the same vibration, the same strange connection to something beyond normal reality. Doctor was 70 years old now. She had spent her entire adult life continuing Vance's secret research. Her network of listeners had grown across the solar system and beyond. And now, they were detecting something incredible. Humans were sensing the resonance field, not with machines, not with implants, with their own minds. This was supposed to be impossible, the needed technology to touch the field. Other species needed surgery and decades of training. Humans had none of these things, and yet they were feeling the field anyway. Began to search for these special humans. She called them resonance. She found ways to contact them through coded messages and secret meetings. She brought them together in hidden places. Was one of the first she found. "What is happening to me?" he asked her when they finally met. "Am I sick? Am I dying?" Smiled at him. "No," she said, "you are waking up and you are not alone." She taught him what the listeners had learned. The resonance field was the foundation of all power. Their ships rode it like boats on water. Their weapons pulled energy from it like drawing water from a well. Their entire civilization was built on their ability to touch it. But they touched it from the outside. They used machines to reach in and grab pieces of it. It was like wearing thick gloves to pick up something delicate. They could use it, but they could not truly feel it. Humans were different. Humans were touching the field directly. No machines, no implants, just pure consciousness reaching out and making contact. It was like removing the gloves and using bare hands. Practiced in secret, taught him exercises to strengthen his connection. She introduced him to other resonants. They learned from each other. They grew stronger together. They had no idea what was happening. Their sensors were designed to detect machine-based resonance manipulation. Human abilities looked like nothing they had ever seen before. The aliens were blind to the very thing they feared most. But not completely blind. High Inquisitor sat in his command center 3 star systems away from 442b. He was responsible for monitoring unusual activity across this sector of space. He had held this position for 200 years. He had never seen anything truly dangerous. Until now. His sensors detected a strange surge in the resonance field. It was small. It was brief. But it came from a location with no technology capable of causing it. It came from a human mining colony. Read the data again and again. His hands began to shake. What he was seeing was impossible. Humans could not touch the field. Every test said so. Every scan confirmed it. But the data did not lie. He immediately classified the information at the highest level. Only 3 other people in the entire Dominion would be allowed to see it. Because if this data meant what he thought it meant, then they had made a terrible mistake 50 years ago. They had conquered a species that was never meant to be conquered. And now that species was beginning to wake up. The resonance grew in number every month. What started as a few dozen scattered across occupied space became hundreds, then thousands. Each one could feel the hum of the resonance field. Each one was learning to reach out and touch it with their mind. Doctor watched this growth with wonder and fear. Wonder because humanity was developing powers that should not exist. Fear because she knew they would eventually notice. And when they did, they would try to destroy every resonant they could find. She pushed her people to learn faster, to grow stronger, to prepare for the storm that was surely coming. Became one of the most powerful resonants. His connection to the field was deeper than most. When he closed his eyes and reached out, he could feel other resonance across vast distances. He could sense the technology all around him, humming with stolen power. Made an important discovery during this time. She gathered her best researchers and shared her findings in a hidden bunker beneath the surface of a small moon. They use the field like a tool, she explained. They reach in with their machines and pull out what they need. They have done this for 11,000 years, but they do not truly understand what they are touching. She showed them data from decades of observation, charts and graphs that told a story no alien had ever guessed. Humans are not using the field, continued. We are becoming part of it. Our minds are not grabbing pieces of the field from outside. Our minds are joining with it from inside. We are not taking power from the field. We are becoming the field. This was the difference that would change everything. They were like people standing at the edge of an ocean, using buckets to scoop up water. Humans were like people diving into that ocean and learning to swim. The aliens could only take small pieces. Humans could become one with the whole thing. Tested this idea on the mining colony. He reached out with his mind and touched a scanner nearby. He could feel how it connected to the field. He could feel the thin thread of power it drew from that vast ocean of energy. And he realized he could cut that thread. He did not do it, not yet, but he knew he could, and that knowledge changed everything he thought about the future. The Resonants kept their abilities secret. They practiced only in safe places. They pretended to be normal workers during the day and trained at night. They were building something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. Then came the day when secrecy was no longer possible. Her name was, she was 12 years old. She lived on a farming colony with her mother and younger brother. She had been a Resonant for only 6 months. She was still learning to control her powers. One evening stole food from a storage building. Her family was hungry. They gave workers barely enough to survive. She took only a small amount, just enough for one meal. But she was caught. The overseer was named. He was known for his cruelty. He enjoyed punishing humans. He dragged into the central square of the colony and announced that she would be executed as a lesson to others. Was terrified. She could feel the field around her, vibrating with her fear. She did not know how to use her power yet. She could only feel it shaking inside her like a storm trying to break free. Was 300 meters away when he felt her terror through the field. It hit him like a punch to the chest. He had never felt another Resonant so clearly before. Her fear screamed across the connection between them. He did not think. He did not plan. He simply reached out with his mind and pushed. The overseer had a neural implant in his brain. All did. It helped them connect to their technology. It helped them touch the field through their machines. Did not know exactly what he was doing. He only knew he wanted to stop from hurting. He reached out and grabbed the thread of power flowing into his implant, and he pulled. The implant exploded, fell to the ground, screaming. Smoke rose from his eyes and ears. He was not dead, but he would never fully recover. Every piece of technology connected to his nervous system had burned out in an instant. Across the entire colony, every device flickered. Lights went dark for a heartbeat. Machines stopped working for just a moment. The local network crashed completely. Then everything came back online, but the damage was done. Ran to safety. The other on the colony were too shocked to stop her. They had never seen anything like what just happened. Their technology had never failed them before. High Inquisitor received the report within hours. His worst fears were confirmed. Humans were not just sensing the field. They were manipulating it. They were doing things that should require advanced technology and decades of training. They were doing it with nothing but their minds. He opened a communication channel to the Imperial. His message was short, but it shook the foundations of the Dominion. "We have a resonance breach," he said. "Species-wide. The humans are not using the field, they are wielding it. They are doing things we cannot do. We must act now, before it is too late." On the ancient alarms began to ring, alarms that had been silent for 6,000 years. The Dominion had faced many threats across the centuries, but this was different. This was the threat they had always feared most. The response was swift and brutal. Within days of receiving warning, the Dominion activated its most feared military unit. They were called the Silencers. Their only job was to eliminate threats to power. They had not been deployed in over 1,000 years. Now they spread across occupied space like a plague. The Silencers did not ask questions. They did not investigate. They simply killed. Every human who showed any sign of resonance ability was hunted down. Entire settlements were destroyed just because one resonant might be hiding there. The aliens were not taking any chances. Millions of innocent humans died in the first wave of attacks. Bodies burned. Cities fell. The Dominion showed the galaxy what happened to species that threatened their control. But they were already too late. The resonants had connected to each other through the field itself. They did not need radios or computers to communicate. They could feel each other across vast distances. When the silencers struck one world, resonance on 100 other worlds felt their brothers and sisters die. And they felt something else too. They felt anger. Doctor was 90 years old now. Her body was weak, but her mind was sharper than ever. She had spent her entire life preparing for this moment. She gathered the strongest resonance in a hidden base deep beneath the surface of an asteroid. "They are trying to kill us all," she told them. "They will not stop until every resonant is dead. We cannot hide anymore. We cannot wait anymore. We must fight back." Stood beside her. He had become the leader of the resonance in everything but name. The connection they had built through the field was stronger than any army. When one resonant learned something new, all of them could feel it. When one resonant grew stronger, all of them benefited. "We have discovered something important," said. "Every piece of technology draws power from the resonance field. Their ships, their weapons, their communication systems, everything." He paused to let this sink in. "But they touch the field from outside. They use machines to grab pieces of it. We are different. We are inside the field. We are part of it." Nodded. "And if we are part of the field, then we can control who else gets to use it." This was the breakthrough that would change history. The resonants did not need to build weapons. They did not need to create armies. They simply needed to deny the access to the power source they depended on. The first test came when silencers attacked a colony on III. 300 humans lived there. 50 of them were resonants. The silencers came with ships and weapons designed to destroy everything. The resonants reached out together. They touched the field as one, and they pushed. The silencer ships suddenly went dark. Their engines failed. Their weapons stopped working. They fell from the sky like dead birds, crashing into the ground with no power at all. The soldiers on those ships survived the crash. They tried to use their personal weapons. Nothing worked. They tried to call for help. Their communication devices were silent. Every piece of technology that touched the resonance field had simply stopped functioning. The humans captured them easily. For the first time in 50 years, soldiers surrendered to humans. News of the victory spread through the resonant network instantly. Humans across occupied space felt hope for the first time in generations. They were no longer helpless. They were no longer victims. They had power now. The Dominion responded with overwhelming force. High Inquisitor personally led a fleet of 500 warships to III. He would burn the entire planet to ash if necessary. But when his fleet arrived, they found something unexpected. The resonants were waiting for them, not with weapons or ships, just with their minds joined together in perfect harmony. Gave the order to fire. Nothing happened. His weapons would not respond. His ship's engines began to fail. Across the entire fleet, every system connected to the resonance field started shutting down. "What is happening?" screamed at his officers. "Why is nothing working?" They had no answer for him. Their technology had never failed like this before. The resonance field had always been there for them. It was the foundation of everything they had built. Now humans were standing between them and that foundation, and they were saying no. His flagship drifted helplessly in space. He had enough emergency power to send one final message to the... His words would haunt the Empress for the rest of her life. "They are not just touching the field anymore," he reported. "They are blocking us from it. They can deny us access completely. Our technology is useless against them. We are helpless." On the Empress XXIII ordered the ancient archives opened. Records that had been sealed for thousands of years were brought before her. She read about a prophecy that the Dominion's founders had feared above all else. The prophecy spoke of a species called the Inheritors, a species that would not merely use the resonance field but become one with it completely, a species that would make the Dominion's borrowed power obsolete. The ancient texts were clear about what must be done. The Inheritors must be destroyed before they fully awakened, every single one of them. no matter the cost. The Empress looked at the words written 11,000 years ago. Then she gave the order that would decide the fate of the galaxy. "Summon every ship in the Dominion," she commanded. "Every soldier, every weapon. We will go to Earth and end this threat forever." The largest fleet in galactic history began to assemble. The final battle was coming. The Armada was the largest gathering of military power the galaxy had ever seen. 10,000 warships from across the Dominion came together. Soldiers from 100 conquered species filled their halls. Weapons capable of destroying entire planets were loaded and ready. Empress XXIII commanded the fleet herself from her flagship, the Divine Will. She had ruled the Dominion for 300 years. She had never personally led a military campaign before, but this was not a normal campaign. This was the end of everything or the beginning of something new. The fleet traveled to the Sol system, to Earth, to the of the species that threatened to unmake 11,000 years of power. What they found when they arrived surprised them. Earth had changed. The cities built by occupiers still stood. The mines and factories still existed, but something else was there now. Millions of humans had gathered in open spaces across the planet. They stood in fields and on mountains and along the shores of oceans. They were not holding weapons. They were not building defenses. They were simply waiting, together. The resonance numbered in the millions now. Every human who could sense the field had come home. They had traveled from colonies across the galaxy. They had escaped from silencer attacks and dodged patrols. They had come to Earth because they knew this was where the end would happen. Stood on a mountain in Tibet. He was surrounded by other resonants. Below them stretched valleys filled with more. The entire planet hummed with human consciousness joined together. Doctor was there too. She was 94 years old now. Her body was failing. She could barely walk, but her mind blazed bright within the field. She had spent her entire life preparing for this moment. She would see it through to the end. Stood nearby. She was a young woman now. The frightened child who had almost been executed for stealing food had become one of the strongest resonants alive. She would help lead humanity into whatever future was coming. The Armada took position around Earth. 10,000 ships formed a sphere of death around the blue planet. Every weapon was aimed at the surface below. Empress opened a communication channel. Her voice echoed across the world. "Humans of Earth," she said, "you have developed abilities that threaten the order of the galaxy. You have killed our soldiers and destroyed our ships. You have the dominion that brought peace to 1,000 worlds." She paused. Even now she was giving them a chance. "Surrender your resonance. Give us every human who can touch the field. Do this and we will spare your species. Refuse and we will burn your world to ash. You have 1 hour to decide." The hour passed in silence. No human answered. No surrender came. The resonants simply stood together, feeling the connection between them grow stronger with every passing minute. The Empress gave the order, "Destroy them all." 10,000 ships opened fire. Weapons that could crack planets released their fury. Beams of energy that unmade matter streaked toward the surface of Earth. The sky turned white with the power of destruction. The resonants breathed together. Millions of minds joined into one vast consciousness. They felt the field around them, through them, inside them. They felt the weapons reaching into that field to draw their power. And humanity sang. It was not a song made of words or notes. It was a song made of pure will. Millions of voices harmonizing within the resonance field itself. It was beautiful and terrible, and unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. The field responded. It recognized something in the human song, something it had been waiting for, something that had been missing for a very long time. The weapons stopped working, not slowly, not one by one, all at once. Every beam of energy faded to nothing. Every ship's engine went silent. Every system connected to the resonance field simply turned off. The Great Armada, drifted helplessly around Earth. 10,000 warships became 10,000 floating coffins. Across the entire Dominion, the same thing happened. On every world where technology existed, the machines stopped working. Ships fell from the sky. Cities went dark. Communications failed. In one moment, 11,000 years of technological superiority ended. The field was not being blocked, it was being reclaimed. Humans were not just part of the field anymore. They were becoming its voice, its will, its guardians. The power that they had stolen and used for conquest was returning to its true purpose. Empress sat in darkness on her powerless flagship. She could not believe what was happening. Her entire civilization was collapsing around her. Everything her people had built was turning to dust. She managed to find a communication device that still worked, a simple radio that did not touch the field. She sent one final message to the planet below. "What are you?" she asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. Answered her. The young woman who had once been a starving child now spoke for all of humanity. "We are what happens when the universe stops being used," said, "and starts being understood. We are not your enemies. We are not conquerors. We are the inheritors. And we are opening a door that was always meant to be opened." The war ended without more violence. They had no power left to fight with. Their technology was gone. Their weapons were useless. They were forced to face humanity as equals for the first time. Many of them chose anger and pride. They refused to accept what had happened. They spent the rest of their lives bitter and broken. But some of them chose differently. Some of them looked at humans and saw something wonderful, a species that had taken their greatest power and transformed it into something better, something that could be shared instead of hoarded. Died 3 days after the battle. She passed peacefully, surrounded by the people she had spent her life protecting. Her last words were a message for all resonance. "Teach them," she whispered. "Teach everyone. The field is big enough for all." Humanity did not build an empire. They had seen what empires did. Instead, they became teachers, guides. They showed other species how to truly connect with the resonance field, not through machines, through understanding. The galaxy entered a new age. It was not perfect. It was not peaceful everywhere, but it was different. It was better. Because now, when beings looked at the stars, they did not see territory to be conquered. They saw a song to be joined. And on Earth, in a small garden in Switzerland, a very old building still stood. Inside it, young humans learned about Vance and N. They learned about the day humanity stopped being slaves and became something new. They learned that some powers are not meant to be taken. Some powers are meant to be shared. And some species are born not to rule the galaxy, but to wake it up.